This single LinkedIn post made me $29,000. And before you think this is some get rich quick nonsense, let me show you the numbers. I had 8 new leads come in, 3 became $19,000 in new business, 2 more became $10,000 in referrals that I passed on to my community. And that's a total of $29,000 in one single post. Insane. But here's what's crazy. This isn't luck. This is a system and I've built it. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how you can turn content into clients. And look, I'm not some fake guru trying to sell you something you don't need. My name's Pete Brennan. I've been a designer for over 25 years now. I've created multiple multi-million-dollar brands for founders that work with us. I also co-founded my own business called Heaps Normal, which is a non-alcoholic beer company that I helped take to a $58 million valuation in 3 years too. Today, I work with my wife, Nix. We build brands for founders, and we also share everything we know through our accelerator program to help designers level up. We charge around $75,000 to work with us. We turn this around in 6 weeks, and we have a small wait list of perfect type of client that wants to work with us. But it wasn't always like this. I started out like most designers. I was overworked, undercharging, and then eventually I was completely burnt out. But the difference is that I've figured out how to create content that attracts dream clients that come to me instead of me relying on word of mouth referrals and just chasing anybody with a budget. Most designers are stuck in this nightmare cycle. They create content with no purpose, they don't get the right leads, and they end up competing on price and working for clients who just don't respect their craft. You're charging $2,000 for a $20,000 project because it's all you can get because you don't know how to position yourself and you're not getting the right leads coming in. And I get it, I've been there. But here's the thing, there are thousands of people out there who need what you do. They just have no idea where to find you. They don't even know that you exist. Think about that for a second. And the solution isn't about getting better at design or working harder. It's about becoming an absolute content machine by putting out the right type of content that attracts the right type of clients. And this comes down to 3 secrets that most designers will never understand. Let me show you. So the first secret I'm going to show you is how to use AI to batch 30 days of client attracting content in just 2 hours. The first thing you need to do is choose your AI tool. There are tons of them out there. I've gone with ChatGPT because I've just been with that from the beginning and it's what I'm used to. The second thing you need to do is start building a relationship with it. Hear me out. I know this sounds weird, but just bear with me. You need to kind of customize the back end of this platform so that it understands exactly who you are and how you operate. So you can see what I've done here. This is a screenshot of the back end of ChatGPT. I've given it my traits of what exactly I should be spoken to about and how I should be, what traits I should have as this AI speaking as me. So I tell it to address me as Pete, be informal and communicate in layman's terms. And I tell it everything about how I like to be communicated with. I have pretty bad ADHD. I battle to concentrate. So I tell it to, provide me with responses that get to the point. And this is the type of stuff that you need to do in order for this to work for you and work with you. I then add even more details. I tell him I'm a 44-year-old father of 3. I live in Sydney. I tell it about Brand Mastery Accelerator, which is my high-ticket program. I tell it about building electric brands with my wife, Nix. I tell it that I co-founded a company called Heaps Normal. And I tell it everything about me so that it knows everything about who I am and how I operate and what I sound like. Number 3 is decide upon one platform. Now, excuse me, if you look at this as a optimistic entrepreneur, you'll go, yeah, man, I'll crush it on all these platforms, no problem at all. The reality is you need deep, deep levels of expertise to get traction on any of these platforms. So I'd suggest choosing one if you're a 1 to 2 person business like we are, and just really double down on that before you start kind of trying to dominate all the other platforms. So for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to go with LinkedIn. The fourth thing you need to do is understand your purpose, vision, and mission. And this is your why, your what, and your how. So if I look at this, this is our brand strategy as a branding studio. That kind of image on the right-hand side is just a screen grab of our website. But your positioning statement is this: we help founders craft world-class brands, consumer brands that boost their business and enhance their lives. So if you map out your purpose, your vision, and your mission, which is your why, your what, and how, you'll have you have a lot of clarity about what you're trying to do as whether you're a freelance designer, a branding studio, whatever you might be. This is a really, really important thing to do. Next, you need to identify your ideal customer. This is our ideal customer for electric brands. It's founder-led businesses or early-stage consumer or tech brands with big ambition and clear product market fit, but no cohesive brand to match. These founders move fast, they're bootstrapped, they're freshly funded, they're tired of being overlooked because their visuals and messages don't reflect the quality of what they offer. So you can see here, I won't read all these words out. You can read it in your own time. Just press pause and read it. But this is what you need to get to. You need to understand exactly who your ideal customer is for yourself as a designer, as a freelancer, or as a studio. Then you need to engineer this prompt to work for you. So screenshot this, This is a prompt that I use with ChatGPT to understand exactly who my ideal target market is and my ideal target audience. We go into real depth about who these people are here, and I ask it some really deep questions. So again, I'm not going to go through this in too much detail for the sake of this video, but have a read of this when you get a chance. I talk about how I run a small branding studio and I work with founders of food and drink, which is kind of CPG, FMCG brands. But then I want to know these things at the bottom, like what are the 5 struggles that they're really kind of running into right now? Like what are the big wins, the 5 big wins that they'd love to hit the next year or two? What 5 fears do they carry, even if would never admit them out loud? So, and there's more, you keep going. This is the thing. Like, we really need to understand these people on a deep, deep level. So I want to know things like what annoys them day to day, like what are they losing sleep over? So take these questions, put them into your AI, and get an understanding of who your ideal customer is. It's really, really important. Then create 1 to 2 posts a day for 30 days. So if you're doing this on LinkedIn, great. Just write these posts, sit down. I sit down and batch create. I'll show you how to do that in a sec. But do the same thing. If it's Instagram, sit down and design posts for 30 days. Do it in one sitting if you can. It's a really good way to do it. And this is how I do it for LinkedIn, for example. So I build everything out of Notion. These are my posts. I will sit there on a Sunday and kind of work with ChatGPT and refine and tweak and rewrite until I'm in a position where I've got a batch of content that I can post, and I know that content is going to connect with my audience, and I know it's going to bring work back into my business. Then schedule posts, export the data, and feed them back into AI. So what I mean by this is sit down and you can schedule your posts in most platforms. So LinkedIn, for example, you can actually go and schedule them for, I think, the next 90 days. Once you've done your 30-day sprint, export that data. You can export a CSV file, view it in terms of engagement and reach and all the rest of it, and then feed that spreadsheet back into AI and say, hey, look at the top 10% of my posts, what made them pop, what made them engaging, and then build the future content from the stuff that worked really well previously. And then repeat this every 30 days. And this is how you improve. This is how you get better. You test and learn. The more data you have out there, the more details you're going to get back, the more refined you can be going forward. So remember, when you're creating content, all your content has to have a clear call to action. The call to action is to get into a funnel, which is to book a call, and I'll tell you how to do that in a sec. And then the call is when I close the sale. So as a branding studio owner, as a designer, whatever I want to call myself, this is my funnel. I put out content with a call to action that gets people into a funnel and they book a call, and then I get them on a call and I close the sale. So that is how to use AI to batch 30 days of client attraction content in just 2 hours. Let's get on to secret number 2, which is how to stand out from the crowd and actually win new client work. Now, I stole this from the legends at an agency in Sweden called Snask, but they've got this concept of making enemies to gain fans. And my take on this is that, like, I need to be outspoken. I need to have an opinion. I need to say things. I need to put stuff out there into the world, because when I do that, I'm going to gain fans. And gaining fans, you make enemies as well. It's just how it is. Not everybody likes the stuff you put out there, and you've got to be okay with that. This is a reel I put out a few months ago, and you can see the comments here. My man, why are you wearing that cliche costume? Makes me laugh when 60-year-olds wear teenagers' clothes and try to look like they're in touch. I'm 44. But it hurt. Now, if this was a couple years ago and I wasn't in a good headspace, this would have really, really upset me. But now I know I need to make enemies in order to gain fans. So this is the barrier to entry for me. I'm putting content out there. People are saying shitty things. It doesn't feel great, to be honest. But that's the barrier to entry that I've got to get through in order to cut through the noise and put myself out there and get fans, because I've got enemies now. And this is a good indication. If I'm getting shitty comments like this, it's a good indication that I'm cutting through the noise. People are noticing. And of course, people are going to disagree. But for everyone that does disagree, there's going to be another 5 to 10 people that do agree. Number 2, be consistent across all touch points. I never go on Facebook. I did this when I was putting this presentation together a while back, and I realized, hang on a minute, Facebook looks weird. This is a really important lesson, and it's something that's so simple, but you have to be across it. Make sure all of your social media touch points are consistent. Make sure you have your brand rolled out. Make sure they're optimized to each platform. It's really important that you get this right. Be crystal clear on your offer is the third thing. So to get clarity in your offer, you need to understand who you are, who they are, and how you're going to help them. And that's what your offer is. So for me, if I look at you, which is me, I'm a brand designer, I'm a studio. If I look at them, they are founders of consumer goods. And if I look at how I'm going to help them, I run them through my 5-step transformation process called Spark. And that's exactly how you engage, customers who are interested in working with you, you have to fill out this offer. You have to map this offer out so that it's in a really good spot so you can really explain it to people who are considering working with you. So my offer for Electric Brand Studio is this. I help founders of CPG companies build world-class brands following my 5-step Spark process. Number 4 is you have to kiss some frogs before you find your prince. Now, I mean this about niche. I mean this about content. I mean this about clients. You need to swing the bat. You need to kiss some frogs. They might not turn into a prince. You might go down a particular niche, or you might start making a specific type of content, or you might go and work with a specific type of client, and they might not be the right one for you. It doesn't mean give up. It doesn't mean throw the towel in. It just means you need to keep kissing the frogs until you find your prince. Number 5 is a really important hack. Name your process. My branding studio is called Electric Brands. My process is called Spark. Get it? Electric Spark. So that's my 5-step brand building process. When I'm on a call with a client, or the prospect, should I say, and it's a sales call, I run them through my Spark process. We talk about step 1 being strategy, step 2 being perception, 3 being advance, R is step 4, which is rollout, and K is the final step, which is kickoff. And then I run them through this process. So this is a really good infographic for you guys to build. You have the problem on the left-hand side. So when I'm talking to my prospects, I say, let me guess, you got no brand recognition, slow traction. Do you have limited sales at the moment? They're like, yes, absolutely. Because I understand my customer, I understand my ideal customer. I know exactly what they're worried about. I know exactly what's keeping them up at night. They're wasting money on marketing spend. They're super anxious. They're sleepless nights. And they want to get onto the other end here on the right-hand side. They want to recognize brand. They want faster traction. They want to increase sales. They want to have die-hard fans and enhance marketing efforts and reduce the stress and just have that optimism for the future. So I'm going to walk them through how I'm going to get them there on the call. And this is what I do. So we start with strategy. We run through a 2 to 3 hour brand strategy workshop. We've got 2 rounds of changes. If we want to change anything, we can. We have 2 opportunities to do that. Then we move into perception, which is when I do very detailed flashboards or mood boards. I call them flashboards, where we have 3 different personas, 3 different color palettes, 3 different creative directions, and we kind of show that to the client to get some feedback at that stage. Then I move into advanced, which is I actually design the first time I design a logo. So I do all the different brand marks, and I build out from a brand concept and map out the color palette and typography pairings and all that sort of stuff. And then I get into rollout, when I roll out across the 70 to 100 page brand guidelines before I finally get to the kickoff stage, which is when I do the detailed handover. There's over 400 versions of the logo. There's mock-ups they need. There's working files of everything they could possibly need. And then I hand that project over, and I hope we never see each other ever again, because I've given my client everything they need. They never need me anymore. They don't need to phone me up and say, how do I do this? Because I've told them they've got everything they need to move forward, and they're in a really good spot. Number 6 is know your MLE. Your MLE is your minimum level of engagement. This is a really, really important thing to understand. There's the least amount of money you can charge without losing money. So say for example, you run a small branding studio, a 1-2 person branding studio, whatever you are, and your salary, your rent, all your costs are $10,000 per month, okay? If you turn a project around in 4 weeks, that means that your minimum level of engagement is $10,000 per project, because if you charged $1 less than that, you'd be running at a loss. And if you went a day over that, you'd be running at a loss. So it's really important to understand this, because this is where scope creeps in for designers like us. And it's really, really important that you are across this and you understand how this works. Because look at this. If your salary and your rent and all your costs are 10 grand a month, but let's say the project delivery takes you 8 weeks to deliver the project, then all of a sudden, the minimum level of engagement that you can charge is now $20,000 per project, which means it's doubled because the timeline has doubled. So you need to be super hyper aware of how this operates. Number 7 is have a bronze, silver, and a gold offer. We do this every time we put together a proposal. I will always talk about the price on the phone before I show a price, and I'll always get their permission to go, okay, cool. So if I give you 3 potential ways to work together, starting at $48,000, and I'll max this out at 86 grand because that's the budget they've established on the phone, give or take, I can put something together that's going to land where they want it to land. Really, really important that you have the conversation about price before you go and spend time putting together a proposal. But having a bronze, silver, and a gold, or in my case, what I call a premium gold and a platinum, is just a really cool way to do this for your client, because it's not saying, hey, this is how much we charge, take it or leave it. It's saying which one of these is better suited to you and where you're at. And number 8 is I always go for the double thank you. I learned this from a guy named Jonathan Stark, but he talks about when you go and buy a coffee, you give the barista your, I don't know, your $4 or $5, whatever the coffee costs, and they say thank you for the money. And then they give you the coffee and you say thank you. And it's not because you're both overly polite. It's because you value the cup of coffee more than you value the money, and they value the money more than they value the cup of coffee. So I always have this conversation with the prospect. If they are umming and ahhing about working with me and they're not too sure, or they really want to work with me, but they can't quite afford it, I'll start talking about this. What can we do? How can we get the double thank you here? What can you guys do for me? Can you bring me some leads? Can you bring me some warm referrals? If you can't afford to work with me at my full price, that is something that would allow me to give you a bit of a discount. I mean, I don't really discount, but if I'm going to give you 10 grand off because you're going to refer me to someone who really wants to work with me, I'm happy to do that because, it's going to benefit everybody. It's the double thank you phenomenon. So figure out how to make this work for you. So now that is secret number 2, how to stand out from the crowd and actually win new client work. And now we're going to go into the final secret, number 3, which is how to build a simple funnel that turns your content into a booked out calendar. So you need to understand the difference between websites and funnels because they do on the surface level look the same. Websites are great. Websites are like a brochure. They give you a deep dive into you and who you are. There's lots of options for the visitor to look at. There's never really a clear call to action. You can book a call, or you can look at the case studies, you can read the about pages, so many things you can do. A funnel is different. There's one call to action, and that's a transaction. And it could be a transaction for money, it could be a transaction for your email address, but it's one call to action, which is a transaction, and that's the difference. So if I look through, this is a funnel I have live at the moment. If I look through this, we have the landing page. Then we have the opt-in because they can only click the play button or the book a call. Whenever they do that, this pop-up comes. Then we get to watch the VSL video. And then if they want to book a call, they click the booking and they have to choose a time and a date. And then they get a pre-qualified survey to fill out. And this is where we establish the tie kickers from the people who are really interested in working with us. So the higher friction you put up here, the less people you're going to get coming in. But that's a quality control thing that you need to figure out how to understand for you and operate for your business. Because what we eventually want them to do is get them on a call with us. So zoom into that. This is the kind of holding page of a funnel that I've put together. You click any of those buttons, which is the same thing. You're going to get this, which is to put your email address in to watch the video. You then watch the video, you book a call, you choose a date and time, you fill out the application, and then you get on a call with me. So by the time people get on the call with me, they are pre-qualified. I know exactly what I'm getting myself into. They know what they're getting themselves into. And for the most part, it's a successful call. Number 2 is all roads must lead to Rome. So all of your call to actions need to be considered. I have a number of different kind of seasons, I guess, within a month or so that I'll kind of go through. So I'll be in sales mode where I have, to an actual sales product that I'm selling. It could be a live webinar, it could be a lead magnet, it could be anything like that. If I'm not in a sales kind of cycle, I'm in delivery mode, which is how I operate my business, then I'll just have, subscribe to my newsletter and I collect email addresses. So be conscious about how you can use this because this is a really powerful way to get people into your funnel, into your system and getting to know how to work with you. Number 3 is what your ideal customer wants is usually your lead magnet. So what we did a while back is I just started asking the right questions, and I found out pretty early on that a lot of our founders at the early stage, they really couldn't decide on a name for their business. So what I did, I created this kind of $5,000 naming process add-on to my studio client offer, where if I was speaking to a prospect and they said, hey, we're really struggling to come up with a name, I say, okay, well, look, we charge 75 grand for the branding side of things, but we have this extra $5,000 kind of add-on. It's a bit of a prequel. We do it before. It takes a week, and we'll run through this process and come up with a list of names. And we would come up with a list of 100 names. We would shortlist the top 10, and then the top 3. We do trademark, IP, and domain searches and all of those as well. So that was a really valuable thing. And we started to realize in the studio work, clients were loving this. So I turned this into a PDF. And this PDF, honestly, as a lead magnet, made me over $100,000 in the first 3 months alone because I was putting this out. I was putting this out with all of my content. I was getting people's email addresses. They were getting actual value from this PDF because it was essentially my 5K naming process that had been designed into a do-it-yourself PDF, and they were getting tons of value out of that. So the more inquiries you get, obviously the more revenue you get because you're qualifying people through the survey and more people are booking calls in your calendar. Remember, the only thing is the next thing, and that is eventually to get them on a call. So when we are on each of these pages, we only want them to do the next thing. So when they're on the landing page, they can only click play or book the call. That's the only thing they can do. And that does the same thing. It pops up that pop-up where I capture their email address. Then they watch the video. And the only thing they can do from each of these pages is the next thing, which eventually is to get them onto a call with me. So that is my 3 secrets of how to absolutely crush it, how to use AI to batch 30 days of client attractive content in just 2 hours, how to stand out from the crowd and actually win new client work, and how to build a simple funnel that turns your content into a booked out calendar. Now, once you start attracting the right clients, you're going to need to know how to position and price yourself properly. And this is the type of stuff that I'm going to share on this YouTube channel. So please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.